I was hugely honoured when the late Provost Sandra Elliott asked us to be chief guest for Hawick Common Riding in 2004. I'll I mind how the invitation came. I'd been away a day, and when I got him, my wife Margaret said, Zandra's been trying to get you to give her a ring. I phoned and Zandra said, I've two favours to ask you, Ian. Firstly, I was wondering if you could get me a copy of Dick Scott's Companion to Hawick. That, of course, was no problem. In passing, every Hawick hoose should have one. Then she got round to favour number two. I was wondering if you would do me the honour of being my chief guest for the 2004 Common Riding. What? My flabber was totally gasted. He could have knocked us over with a fender. But I'd said yes, almost afore she'd finished speaking. I'd never even thought to consult my wife. I went round to where she was sitting. Margaret, I said, I've a good memory for names. I said, you're not going to believe this. Sandra Elliott's not got a companion to Hawick. No, this was without doubt the most unexpected invitation of my life. The supreme honour was for me, the knighthood, the Oscar rolled into yen. This was my Everest, the biggest of big pictures. I thought this was an invitation only given to celebrities, aristocrats, politicians, or exiled Tieries who had achieved fame by sea or land. And I can honestly say it never entered my head that it could be given to an ordinary Hawick callant like me. The Common Riding has had down through the years an awful lot more famous chief guests, an awful lot more influential ones. But I submit, in all humility, never yin more conscious of the honour bestowed on him or her. When I was given this ultimate accolade, there had actually been only 3 chief guests for the tune itself in the past 100 years. I was deeply aware of how unusual this was, and that to be asked to speak at the colour busing was an incredible honour, but also an awesome responsibility. There was an incredible level of expectation. I'd spoken at countless dinners, and I kent I could make a reasonable job of it, but if ever I had to get a speech right, this was the yin. On the night afore the morn, as I sat in the platform afore I spoke, it's hard to put into words, but I was conscious of a wave of goodwill coming up from the audience, which calmed my nerves, and I was quietly chuffed at how well my oration was received. To get the standing ovation was out of this world. It was a special Common Riding, definitely the best of all. It was great to establish a special bond with my cornet dodger and his lass Amy, and with acting father and mother, Pi and Jane, and to share the greatest weekend of their life. I never thought when I was a wee laddie that I would be driven round my beloved tune in a Beattie's luxury limousine, gien folk the Queen's Wave. What an unforgettable experience that was. To slightly adapt the words of a much underestimated local songwriter. When on the street, good friends I'll see, who'll frae the pavement wave to me. I had to pinch my soul that this was happening, but at that moment I kent even more than normal, indeed through the innermost depths of my being, that there was nowhere I would rather be than Hawick, my border hame. Yin wee daft thing that's particularly stuck in my mind is the surreal experience of, after the lane of the wreath, being driven down the avenue and out through the park gates. I never thought I'd ever do that. The whole weekend went by in a blur, and I'll forever be indebted to Provost Sandra. I hope I lived up to her expectations and justified the faith she put in us. Forever indebted to the folk of the grey old tune, with his good wishes, encouragement, support and appreciation at that memorable time will live with Margaret and me till the day we die. In 2013, I was hugely chuffed to receive the British Empire Medal for Her Majesty the Queen, presented to us by Her Royal Highness the Countess of Wessex. I was given the award for my services to the Hawick community. Only thing that I've done was in no way looking for reward, but with a heartfelt love I have for this grey old tune in the hollow of the Border Hills, where I've been immensely privileged to live and move and have my being, the spot that means the world to me, the place my heart aye longs to be, and to be honoured in such a way meant a tremendous lot. However, I hope I'm not being ungrateful to Her Majesty when I say it's the second greatest honour I've been given in my life, only being pipped when Provost Sandra Elliott gave us the unbelievable privilege of being chief guest at Hawick Common Riding in 2004.
I had the privilege of being asked to be the chief guest in 1972. I'd never been to the colour busing. That was one of the things which I was a bit nervous about, having to make a speech. I had really no idea what I was talking about. I was so young. Normally speaking, you get sort of people who've got a lot of experience under their belt, but I was really quite young. And the colour busing, I worried more about that than anything else. The other speeches are all sort of pretty set and pretty standard. But it was a great, great privilege, and I just sort of followed and done as I was told and enjoyed myself tremendously. But at the colour busting, for those that's never been, it is amazing that all the young ladies, the lassies, all dressed up like fly hooks, they all look stunning. It's just extraordinary. Cornets sometimes are a bit sort of iffy on their speeches, they're a bit nervous, but that's completely understandable. And for me, I couldn't really think what to say. I was so young, but the biggest thing I remember was that when I was sailing, I used to think back on the park. We have the most wonderful, wonderful park. And I used to think of the park often, because we used to go walking around the park when we were in the swimming team as part of our exercise on a Saturday, or rather a Sunday. And I used to think about that, and I talked about the park quite a lot. It is wonderful. But of course now we see the colour busing quite often. It's fantastic to go to. So my memory of being a chief guest is very much underpinned by the colour busing.
Who'd have thought that 2021 would have been years without Hawick coming riding? Hard to take in, really. And at my age, you can't really afford to miss two in the trot. But it's 40 years ago that I missed two in the trot, because in 1980, Bruce Campbell's year, I was in Africa, 18 games, 4 tests, 3 months of rugby and sunshine, but no coming riding. And although Alan Thomas and myself, who had a celebration on Durban Beach, it just wasn't the same. And there's no doubt Thomas Caldwell got you right when he said absentees thoughts fly homeward on each coming riding morning. I missed 1981 as well, and Davy Blacklock was in New Zealand for 8 games, 2 tests. A few white boys, Colin Deans, Alan Thomas, Alistair Cranston, myself. So that was a good trip, but no much time to reflect on the coming riding. The first test was the Saturday on Hawick Mere, and you can't help thinking about him at Hawick at that time, but when you're playing the All Blacks in the afternoon, it gives you something to take your mind off it. The week before the first test, we were in Wellington, and we had to go and meet the New Zealand government at a government house. And as it would be, it was a Thursday night of the chase, and I was up there, the Hawick boys were all together, talking about the chase, and then we got separated, and I was standing on my own. I think I was dipping prawns in a dip and having a glass of Sauvignon Blanc. And this wee bald fuck guy came over and started speaking. I suppose he looked a wee bit like myself. And he started talking about how he enjoying our beautiful country. And to be fair, I'd had enough of it by this. And I said to him, look, in Broad Hawick, it's alright, but I wouldn't like to bide here. And he sort of started talking about politics and about New Zealand, and I said to him, do you work here? He says, I do. He says, I'm the Prime Minister, Robert Muldoon. I says, that's all right. And I says, I'm Jim Renwick. I've got a cousin who works for the Duke of Buccleuch, and I'm standing for Provost of Gala. Which, at that time, he just turned away and moved away. But right enough, when he got up on the stage, he was the Prime Minister. But no the best on the night of the Thursday night chase. I might have missed 3 years on the trot, because Scotland were in Australia in 1982. I'd had enough of touring by then, but to be fair to Scotland, they beat Australia in the Southern Hemisphere. First time they'd ever beat a team down there. Tommy Smith was the cornet, and the one and only Wally Gray was acting for that. And somebody asked us if I'd rather beat Australia or beat the Comrade in 82. And I had to be in the Comrade in 82 because I got the chance to toast Wally in the hat. The Friday Comride's a big miss for many Hawick folk. Much has been written in song and poem and verse over the years. Lines like, it's something in the heart abiding, it's better felt than dealt. But I think in reality, when you've missed a few, it's about being there, it's about being in amongst it with Hawick folk that you want to be with. Here's hoping that it's no 3 on the trot. I'm sure Hawick folk are itching to get back in amongst it as soon as they can. Being Watson's guest in 2018 was a great privilege, but what a chance to get in amongst Hawick folk. Being Watson's guest in 2018 was a great privilege, but also a great chance to get in amongst something that is very special to Hawick folk.